Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Real Talk with Rhi. Thank you so much for joining me once again on the podcast. So today we're talking about tips for parents for the first time, specifically the first time, but obviously it could be for subsequent times when your child goes on an overnight school trip. So this could be with the school, like an actual school trip. My kids call it a residential. They call it the residential, like the residential is coming up. So it could be an overnight school trip. It could be with something like brownies, scouts, that kind of thing. But basically, when adults that are not within your family from some organization are taking your children away, usually to sleep in dormitories and to have fun and do activities where usually they'll get incredibly muddy, have loads of fun, make incredible memories. But it can be a nerve-wracking time for both the adults and the kids, because if your children don't stay away from home generally, especially if you don't have family that they go and stay with, it might be the first time your child's ever slept away from home. It can be quite a nerve-wracking experience. And I feel like being prepared can really, really help make the experience go smoothly. And especially if you're a bit of a neurospicy household like us, if you're new around here, I'm Rhi from mummy4.com, and I was recently diagnosed with ADHD, so that's reasonably new information to me. But all four of my children have autism, and I think it's sort of come to my husband doesn't have a diagnosis, but he does have autism, let's face it. So we have a lot of autism in the family. We have a lot of neurodivergence. We're very neurospicy. And one thing that I have come to realize, that taking care of my family who have autism, being prepared and making sure they have the things they need in order to transition to places where they're not familiar can be really, 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 really helpful. And not doing these things can cause more stress than is required. They can make situations that should be exciting stressful by just not being prepared. So let's just launch straight into the tips. My first tip would be to pack in advance. And by this, I mean prior to a day or two before. For Bella's trip, so this is very close to my heart at the moment, because my Bella, who is my eldest daughter, but my third child, so I've got two boys, and then I've got Bella, and then I've got Zara. My eldest daughter is currently on her first ever residential. Now, she's been prior to this on two sleepovers, two like birthday party sleepovers, but that's the only time she stayed away from home. So it's quite a big deal. It is quite a big deal. And she and I both had feelings. I've got to say feelings, I'll get into this, that I chose to keep mostly to myself for various reasons and not to burden her with, but we'll get into that. But packing in advance, I felt helped her and me, but for different reasons. So for me, the reason I like to pack in advance, and if you've watched any of my Come Pack With Me videos over on my main Mummy of 4 channel, just search Mummy of 4 UK on YouTube and Mummy of 4 UK packing if you want to watch any of those. And I like to pack in advance because for me, if we're packing for a normal trip, there's a lot of people I'm packing for. There's up to 6 people if we're all going. And it's a lot to remember. And my brain, I've now come to realise, perhaps this is an ADHD thing. I always thought it was just a mum life and everyone's lives were busy and everyone's brains were as busy as mine. It might just be an ADHD thing. But I find that I can be as organised as I like, but then things come to me like, oh, I need this, I need that. And I find if I pack in advance, at least a week before, it gives my brain a chance to remember the things that I may have forgotten and then add them in. It's like trying to organise it all at once is a lot. And I have a lot of lists. I have a packing checklist specifically for if your children are going on an overnight residential, which you can follow, which I have followed. So Belle's actually away for 2 nights. It's a 4-night checklist because I developed it because that covers a week-long school trip. So you just sort of adjust the figures accordingly, but I will drop the link for that if you want to grab that checklist down below. But even with the checklist, I feel it's quite a big responsibility, and perhaps I feel like it's quite a lot because my brain is like full of buzzy bees. And so maybe it's an ADHD thing, but also I feel like the responsible of having children with neurodivergence, the responsibility rather, it's, how do I explain it? It's like, it's all the more important for me to make sure she has everything she needs, because it's already a big adjustment. It's already a bigger thing than for a neurotypical child who might take things in their stride. It's already a change of routine. It's already such a big thing that I don't want not having the things that she's expecting to have to be the thing that spoils the trip. And this is why I think I've always felt like packing is quite a lot of pressure. I think I've got friends who are like just fully neurotypical houses, and they very much sling things in a bag and off they go and everyone has a great time. And if that works for you, I'm thrilled for you. For me, I know that when we have been away in the past and certain family members, not mentioning any names at all, have not had the things they were expecting to have with them, there have been meltdowns, and it has spoiled chunks of the day, or if not entire days of trips, because certain people have been upset, and obviously that's in fact affected the whole party, the whole family. So for me, I think it's even more important to get it right. And by packing early, it allows that breathing space. It allows that, what do we need to add in? It allows for life to happen as well, because if you plan to pack 7 days early and then someone's really ill or whatever, you can just pack 6 days early. You've got a bit of buffer time. If you're packing the night before, but then also, another one of your children is throwing it up, leaving things last minute just doesn't allow that time, that buffer time. And the more children you have, then the more likely there's something that's going to happen to like pull you away. So that's why I like to pack early. Also, it just allows me to pack in a way that I felt really helped Bella. So before I filmed that packing video that you can find by going onto my main channel, I went through with Bella and we went through the list, we discussed what she wanted to wear, and she made some choices. I then pulled it all together and organised it all, labelled it all, did all the boring bits basically, and got it all in order. And I got everything laid out on the bed and it was all there for her to see. I then went through it all with her, checked she was happy, and then together we packed it into the case so she knew what everything was. So I'd done all the kind of legwork. She pointed me in the right direction of what she wanted. I'd done the legwork. We put it in there together. And then over that course of that 7 days, she was like, oh, Mummy, I'd like to add this. And just little bits, little tweaks were made. She felt like she had that ownership. I felt that I'd had that time to remember those extra bits. It's just totally worth it. So my next tip was actually pack together. And while in that video, you will see that I was mostly packing by myself, Bella had a lot of input. So Bella helped me get all the stuff together, made the choices, and then ultimately put it all in the case because she needed to know where things were going to be. Next tip would be to use a checklist. And like I said, there is that checklist that you can download, and the checklist actually has 2 columns to check off. So the checklist has all of the list of the things that you need, and then there's a tick box section for everything you want to pack into the case to go. And then there is a second tick box section for things to pack to come back. So that's like a checklist of, have I remembered everything now? Have I left something here in this outward bound centre or whatever it's called? Incidentally, what do you call it when your children go on a residential or the residential? Is it an outward bound trip, a school trip? Because to me, a school trip seems like you go there, you have lunch, you come back. That's a school trip. What do you refer to, or what do you call it when you're referring to an overnight school trip? If you are watching on my YouTube channel, please do let me know in the comments if you're watching the video podcast episode on YouTube. If not, head over to YouTube. It's Real Talk With Rhi podcast on YouTube. If you are listening, you can kind of join the conversation over there. But yeah, just really curious, what do you call it? So the checklist. I actually got Bella to do all the ticking as we were packing things into the case. So she's happy. She knows she's got everything. And that way, on the last day where she's like, oh, Mummy, it's time to go. Have I got everything? It's like, look, you did this. We've gone through the checklist. It's okay. And then on the way home, she can then check things back into the bag and be confident that she's not leaving things behind. Ultimately, though, what you have to do, and this is not just school trip specific thing, this is a just when you have kids thing, and it's label flipping everything. If you ever want to see it again, put a label in it. So I use labels from my name tags. I have got a discount code and a link I will leave down below, and those are just amazing. Those labels, they are washing machine proof, dishwasher proof. You just stick them in. 24 hours later, if you stick them in the care labels of clothes, you can chuck the clothes in the washing machine. If you stick them on plastic things, you can put them in the dishwasher. I use them on everything. Honestly, I've been raving about these things since long before I've started blogging, vlogging, all the things. I'm obsessed with them. I have them on everything. I actually even have them on my things that ever leave the house, just in case, things go missing. You can actually put your family name on them and a phone number. You can put your child's name. You could put their class, form, school, whatever it is. But if you want to see things again, they're going to need to be labelled, because, in fact, the teachers, when they do the teacher meeting, were saying, please label everything, because there'll be some stuff at the end where they're holding things up going, who does this belong to? And all the children swear blind, nope, not mine, and it's not labelled, so it just gets left behind and discarded. So I briefly mentioned a school meeting. Chances are, if your child is going on one of these trips, there will be a parents' meeting beforehand. It is really important you attend this meeting rather than, there'll be information, I'm sure, like circulated in emails and things afterwards, but attending these meetings is generally really helpful because it's your opportunity to actually converse with the people that are going to be looking after your children. So you'll find out which teachers are going. They will generally show some sort of video or slideshow of where your child is going. It's your opportunity to ask questions like how many are in a room, and what's the accommodation like, and how and when are you arranging who's sleeping where, and just the nitty gritty of how the trip is run. And even if your children have been on similar trips before, it's important to attend the next meetings because the arrangements might be different. They might share details of how they're going to stay in touch. They might share details of return times, pickup times, all that kind of stuff. Generally, it'll all happen in the meeting. And it's just, if you can make it to this meeting, prioritize getting that into your diary. I would store all of the information the school are going to send you. So chances are they're going to send you some initial information with dates and things. Get these in your diary, including the dates you need to pack and the date that your child is going, so you can start preparing. There'll be dates that the deposits need to be paid by, dates that the final balance needs to be paid by. All these dates are important, need to go in your diary. They will send out a specific kit list that your actual trip needs. So you can utilize the checklist that I've got and add or cross off any bits that the school do or do not need. And on this, it will specify specifics. So, for example, on my checklist, I've said to include a pillow, a sleeping bag, and a fitted sheet, because this covers everything you might need. And maybe if your child gets there and they have some of those things, they don't need to use them, great, they can leave them in the bag. But some centres will be like, no, we've got bedding. You just show up and get into a bed like a hotel. Some centres are like, well, there's a pillow and a sheet, but you need a sleeping bag. Some will provide a pillow, but you need a pillowcase. So these specifics will be on the information from the school. And then closer to the time, look out for information from the school about, say, specifics. So for our school, we had to take the children in normal time for registration. And then there was an option to meet them at the bus, which was a slightly different location close to the school. And we had the option to take their cases to the bus and do the wave off. And we'll talk about that in a second. But all of this information was given out sort of much closer to the time, but it's also really, really important information, all needed to be stored in one place. I like to open folders. So I've got on my phone, I've got digital folders for each child. And then there is a school version, a school folder for each child within those folders. And then within that folder, I'd have one, like all the reports from the school reports get sent digitally. So all the school reports would be in one place. And I've got all of the information for any school trips, just all filed in one folder on my phone, so I can access it all at any time I need it. So that's really handy. But yeah, all this information will probably be dripped out to you. If you've got school WhatsApp groups, it'll generally be circulated around those as well. My next tip would be to learn as much as you can about the centre. If it's not a million miles away, you could physically go there, have a look, either with or without your child, just to assess what it's going to be like. We have done this previously. And it's just nice to know where your child's going to be, to know they're going to be safe, to know they're going to be secure. A lot of sites obviously have websites, a lot, as in Outward Bound centres have websites, but check out if they've got a YouTube channel, because what better way to have a look around somewhere than with an actual video. And luckily more and more places are having these. If your child's school has been there previously, there may be videos from previous years that you can watch to see the kind of things that previous year groups have done. Discuss your expectations and your child's expectations with your child. So what sort of activities are they going to be doing? Are they going to be doing canoeing? You could show them videos on YouTube about what that might look like. Are they going to be doing climbing, indoor climbing, outdoor climbing? Will there be certain activities they've never heard of before? If you can look through the list of the kinds of activities they might be doing, even if you can't find footage from that specific centre, you can show them roughly what they might be likely to expect, and then perhaps for neurotypical children they just take it in their stride anyway, but for children with autism this can really help to prepare them and then actually enjoy the activity when they come to it, rather than feel that anxiety about not knowing what to expect. Pack your child's comfort items, so make sure they've got something with them that can comfort them. If they've got a special toy or whatever, then make sure that they've got something to snuggle up with, maybe a favourite dressing gown, a cuddly toy, a favourite blanket. So Bella has taken her bunny with her, and a lot of her friends have taken similar, bunnies, teddies, things like that. She's also got a favourite blanket she likes to sleep with, so on top of her sleeping bag she's actually taken that too. The other thing I like to do is make all their things smell like home. So this can be as simple as making sure that everything has been recently washed in the washing powder that you're used to using, so that when they put on their clothes, when they put on their bean bags and things, then everything smells familiar. The other thing, I did share this in the vlog where I was packing. My girls specifically, Will quite likes it, but my girls specifically love the spray from Lush. I think it's called Rose Jam. They just call it Rose Spray, and they love it. So the story behind this is I'd heard about this, I think it's called Sleepyhead from Lush, which is supposed to be calming, and the idea is you spray it on your pillow if you're feeling a bit anxious, and then the scent helps you calm down, relax and drift off to sleep. So we went into Lush a couple of years ago now and asked about this specific scent, and it's a body spray but it has this other use. And the girl in Lush that was serving us said, okay, that's nice, but have you smelled this? And she showed us this rose jam. The girls were obsessed with it, and I've got to say it smells amazing. So I spray the girls' bunnies with it if they, as an extra comfort thing, and they love the scent, they love it. And when they're feeling a little anxious or whatever, I spray them. So I actually sprayed a lot of the stuff within Bella's case with this scent, so when she opens up the case she'll be like, it smells so lovely, and she associates that smell with home, with feeling peaceful, and smells can be very evocative, can't they? So I just think this is a nice extra dimension to add. Think about packing snacks. Your children will be fed on Outward Bound holidays, hopefully. Yes, they will be fed, but chances are you may need to pack a packed lunch on the first day. Now I've sent Bella with a packed lunch, and I've asked her, will she please just throw away things like banana skins rather than bring them home, because by the time they come home they're going to be disgusting. So the lunch had to go for the first day. Find out if you've got to do the same. But also I've sent her with cereal bars, with little packs of biscuits, with some sweets and things. Some schools may not allow sweets, they may allow snacks, but I just thought that way, if for whatever reason she's not that fussed on the food, she's still peckish, she's got something to eat. She probably won't need them. They tend to feed them quite well and quite large quantities of food on these things, because the children are burning up a lot of energy. There's a lot of walking, running, swimming, climbing, all the things. So they generally won't go hungry. They generally feed them frequently and quite a lot. But I think knowing it's all right if I don't like the food, I've still got bits to eat, is quite comforting, because will I like the food is perhaps a large worry for some children going on these trips for the first time. The next tip is to put in wet bags or bin bags for muddy, smelly clothes, and to ask your child politely, they may not do this, to, when they've done something like a mud run or an assault course, to take off everything that's stinking and muddy, to put it inside that wet bag or the bin bag, and to keep that separate from the dry, dirty clothes, or indeed the dry, clean clothes that have not yet been worn. I feel like I had this conversation with our eldest before he went, but it did not play out that well, and the whole suitcase came back smelling like a pond, which wasn't the best. But at least by putting this stuff in and having this discussion, it might happen. So when Will went, he followed my instructions, and one bag came back smelling like a pond, and the rest of the bag and the other clothes did not, so that was good. Another tip that I will give that I feel helped Bella, and I think helps lots of us in lots of different ways. I feel this tip has a lot of different applications, but it's to give the option of an out. And let me explain. So sometimes in life, feeling like we're committing to something for good feels like too much of a decision to make. Feeling like, yes, I'm either doing this, yes, I'm doing this, or not doing this feels like a big decision. And this is why companies offer you free trials. So a free trial or a 7-day trial or a money back guarantee trial or whatever helps to minimize the discomfort of making this decision, because you think, well, it's fine, I'm not committed, it's just a free trial. And chances are, once you have started the free trial, you won't cancel and you'll stay with the service, the product, or whatever it is. Okay, are you with me here with this analogy? So companies offer this because they know it's like an easy yes. And I feel that if you've got a child that's nervous to go on these things, you can kind of work it in the same way. So what I said to Bella was, well, would you be nervous if you were just going for the day and coming back end of school time? She said, no, I'd be okay with that. So I said, ultimately, the thing that's making you nervous is the idea of I'm either going on the trip and I'm stuck there for 2 nights, or I'm not going. And that's a big decision to make. So I said, right, let's just remove this pressure. And let's just say you're going to go for the day and then I'll come and pick you up if you want to come home. No, it's quite a way. I'd have to drive quite a long way. But if she wanted me to do that, I would. She's like, oh, but what if I want to stay? I thought, well, if you want to stay, then it's because you're having fun and because you're enjoying it and because you want to be there. So that's fine. That's actually what I want for you. I want you to go. I want you to have these experiences. I want you to have this amazing time. I don't want you to miss out. I want you to have these memories with your friends. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm missing out like crazy, but I wanted to have this experience too. So by saying, look, go and decide hour by hour. Am I having fun? Do I want to stay? Or do I want to speak to the teacher and ask them to call my mum to pick? And I even said to her, like I know it's not like okay to lie, and lying is something we definitely discourage. However, I am happy for you to say to your friends, if you really hate it and you're homesick, but you don't want to say, I want to go home because I'm homesick, to say that you need to go home because you're not feeling well, and no one will argue with that. So I've given her this out and I've said, look, if you're not feeling it, if you want to come home at any time, before the first night, before the second night, early, at any time before the actual bus drives to pick you up, let me know and I will get in the car and I will come and get you. And I feel that this has given her the permission to just enjoy it moment by moment. I understand this won't work for everyone. If your child is going a really, really long way, this might not work as well as if it's just a few hours you'd have to drive. But I feel it's a gentle yes. It's an easy yes. It's like the free trial. It's like, well, I'll do it. And if I hate it, then I'll just stop doing it. So have a think if you've got a child that's quite nervous or is feeling anxious and feeling worried about positioning it within this way, to just go, enjoy it for as long as they want to enjoy it, and then come away. The other thing that it's worth explaining to your child, and I've got to say this is so relevant in so many situations to adults too, and it's realizing that feeling nervous and feeling excited are very similar sensations in our bodies. So if we are feeling nervous, maybe our heart rate's a bit faster, maybe we've got butterflies in our stomach, maybe our hands are a bit sticky, you kind of feel almost jittery, like, ooh, nervous. But how do we feel if we feel excited? Our heart rate's a bit faster. We've got butterflies in our tummy. Maybe our palms are a bit sweaty. We feel a bit jittery. It's a more of a positive jitter perhaps, but it's a very similar feeling. And if we can convince our minds that these sensations we're feeling in our bodies, and we tell ourselves, rather than I'm feeling worried or I'm feeling anxious, we can say to ourselves, I'm feeling excited, and we can kind of rebrand this feeling. That can be really, really helpful. And this does not just go for children who are going on residential trips. This can be nervous for going into a meeting or nervous to try something new. If you can tell yourself, I'm not nervous, I'm excited, and you can rechannel that can be really, really powerful. So try that one out with your kiddos. Next tip would be to keep money and valuables to a minimum. There will generally be a cap of how much pocket money the children are allowed to take. I've sent Bella with change only. There's no point in sending her with notes. I'm thinking that from what the school have said, then there's not a great deal to buy anyway. There's a tuck shop. I mean, I sent her with sweets, but I don't want her to be the only one not able to buy things from a tuck shop. I think when Will went, they all bought ice creams. I have said if there is some sort of shop full of souvenirs, please don't feel the need to buy us things. Just buy yourself ice cream or whatever and enjoy. But I've not sent her with a great deal of money because ultimately it's just more to get lost and then more anxiety for the child if things get lost or whatever. And as a rule, everything is paid for in advance for these trips. So just really think about keeping that to a minimum. And then waving off. Oh, I have thoughts about this. So it's all very well-meaning, but our school tends to do, like I touched on briefly earlier, they'll do drop-in at normal time and the children will go in with their backpacks and sometimes their suitcases and whatever to the school. And then they will walk to the bus, which is sort of within the grounds, but like not in the playground as such, but very, very close by. And they'll walk to the bus and then there will be a time that the parents can come and wave off the bus. And it becomes very ceremonial. And while if there is waving off to be done, I am not, for the life of me, going to be the only parent not there waving off. I don't actually think it's helpful for the parents or the children. So if we take it way back to when my children were in nursery and they're crying going into school, the advice that the teachers give you is leave as soon as possible. Don't linger and be like, bye, baby, at the window. Just be like, bye, darling, nice brisk, kiss my head, have a lovely time, off you go. Keep it upbeat, and then the children are less likely to get emotional. And I feel like that would be a healthier way for them to start a school trip than the waving off. So the waving off is a long-winded thing because, ultimately, I met Bella there with her bag, so she didn't have to take the bag into the hall and come back out. So it worked out okay. But previous years, the children were just taking their own bags to the bus. And I only did it because on this occasion, it's because it's what the school suggested. But if they said no parents to wave off, then nobody's parents would be missing out. So there were some parents that couldn't make it because it was at 9:30. A lot of parents had to be in work. So I really felt for the children and the parents where that was not an option. I'm incredibly lucky that I work from home and I can manage my own time. So I can just get up earlier and do a bit more work or work a bit later. I know I'm very blessed to be able to do that. But I really felt for those kids and those parents that weren't in that position, because when I've been previously employed in like a normal job, that would have been me. And I think that's really hard and really unfair on those families. But also for the children who are there were some children that apparently had been absolutely okay leading right up to that moment that were crying, getting on the bus. And it's because it was quite a long time because the children walked up. It was all the loading of the bus. The children were lining up and then they were sitting on the bus waving. And there were so many children in tears that I felt were unnecessary tears because they'd made such a big ceremony about it all. If everyone had just been dropped off at school in a very much have an amazing time, lovely loads way, not like everyone waiting for the bus and all the parents waving farewell and I'm behind my sunglasses. And I've got to say, as the bus pulled away, I had a tear. I did have tears behind my sunglasses, but it didn't need to be like that. So I don't feel it's helpful. So yeah, if there's a vote going on for your parents, for the parents within your school, I think the fairest and the kindest way for the children and perhaps the parents too is to not do that bit, because I think it causes a very heightened emotions and it's unfair on some families. But ultimately, if there are some parents waving off, I want to be there waving off too. I don't want Bella to be looking for me. But if there are no parents allowed, then she's not going to be looking for me. It would just allow the excitement to start as soon as they've been dropped off in school and over to the teachers. And it's for the same reason, like the school are very specific about no phones. I mean, they don't want valuables getting lost and stuff, so no phones, but also they don't want anyone communicating with home, because generally in their experience, and their experience is extensive, in the school's experience with taking care of children on these residential trips, the kids are fine until they speak to a parent, and then they're like, Ma, and the parents are like, I miss you, and then they're like, oh, I want to go home. And up until that moment, they'd be absolutely fine, and then one kid gets homesick and it just sets everyone off like dominoes. So the school have this awareness that what's best for the children. They have this awareness of what's best going in, in nursery when they're anxious. I just feel perhaps it needs to be transferred over to this waving off, and to make it fair for everyone so that nobody does it. So my next step is to put on a brave face. I wanted Bella to know that, of course, I'm going to miss her. It's not that I'm going to be like, oh, well, I don't care, you're gone. It's like, darling, of course, like, I love you very much. Of course I'm going to miss you. I want you to know that, but I don't want you to be sad about that. I don't want it to be a reason for you to be sad. We'll all be fine. We'll miss you, but we'll be fine. I wanted her to know that what I want more than anything is for her to have an amazing time, and I'm excited for her to have these experiences. And as her mum, of course it's hard, because it's hard when as the children grow up and they reach new stages and things. But ultimately, the message I want for her is I am excited for you to do this. I'm excited for you to have this experience. I kept my tears, same as when I dropped them off in nursery, for when I was out the site round the corner. So did I have a little cry when they all first started nursery and they were peeled out of my arms? Yes, but I did not do it in front of them. Did I have a little cry after Bella had been waved off on the bus? Yes, but she did not see that, because if she sees I'm upset, that's just going to make her upset. So while I think it's important for us to show our children that we're human and that we have feelings and we have emotions, and it is okay to have those emotions, I think in some situations like this one, it's important for me to be like, it's okay, and to have my emotions privately and not lean on her with my emotions, and not be like, I'm going to miss you so much, and like make her deal with that, because ultimately I am still the parent in this relationship. So yeah, that's a bit of a delving deep in that one. My next tip would be just to check the school's keep in touch method. So do you have an app that the school uses? Will they be putting stuff on there? Do they have social media? Will they be putting stuff on there? Are you happy for your child to be on social media? I mean, this is a whole separate issue, but yes or no, and they'll probably ask for consent for that again before any trip. Will it be in email? Will it be in text? What will it be? And keep an eye on those channels for pictures, updates and things, and especially when they're on the way back. Something I find really helpful is I use AirTags. You will have seen me use these on the children's wrists when we go away, just so we can keep an eye on where they are, which direction they've headed in if we were to lose sight of them. But I also put AirTags on their bags. So I've actually sent Bella with an AirTag on her bunny, her very precious bunny, her comfort toy, just because that's the most precious thing in her world and we don't want that to go missing. One on her backpack and one on her suitcase. And the most helpful thing for this, to be honest, is I could log in to my app on my iPhone and see that they had safely arrived and that all 3 AirTags were in the same place. So I was like, yay, winning at life, that's good, they're all there. And then when they start heading back, because obviously if they're traveling some distance, they're going by coach, and this is handy for any school trip, that they're not coming back by the end of the school day, then you can see how close they are to be able to time, making sure you're there in time to pick them up, but also that, you're not waiting around for hours and hours on end if they've been delayed. So if your child is going on a residential school trip, big hugs to you and your child. I hope they enjoy it. I hope you survive it. And do let me know down in the comments if your children have been on any, if they have got any coming up. Apologies if you are not able to comment because you're listening to the podcast in your earbuds, but you could tag me over on social media, Real Talk with Rhi podcast, or my Mummy of 4 UK Instagram, and let me know you're listening. Let me know when your kids are going. I would love to hear from you. So you can check out my Patreon for some early release content. All links for that will be below. You can check out my planner store if you want to grab one of my planners to help you organise your life. Don't forget, if your child is going on a residential, to grab that checklist. All of that is linked below. And I shall see you next week for another episode of Real Talk with Rhi. Bye.